There's hope for my city. We are the chosen ones. We are the light, reflecting His only Son. Hope for my
Well, welcome to Hope for My City podcast. What a blessing to be here yet another day to be able to come before you. We have, I'd say, a special guest. So excited, we've been working with the PD here in Waco, and we've had an opportunity when we first kicked off to interview Chief Cheryl Victorian, and we've been, interviewing commanders and this and that. I mean, it's been a blessing, and so today we have Assistant Chief Robert Lanning. So, man, I am so excited that you are with us. Can you, Chief, just share what's your function, your responsibilities, and let's start there.
Okay. Well, we have three assistant chiefs at the Waco Police Department. One of them is over criminal investigations, one of them over patrol,
Uh-huh.
which are basically the people that wear uniforms.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we have one over support services. And right now, I'm over patrol, which is the patrol officers, canine, traffic, and the court officer, the bailiff.
Okay, awesome. Well, and we've had Wallace on here, who at the time was Commander Wallace, and who is now one of the three, right, assistant chiefs, and so. Tell us a little bit, Robert, about your upbringing, kind of from as far as you can remember, your story, if you would.
Well, I was born and raised in Waco. I've never left. Um, so,
I didn't realize that.
yeah. Went to all the Waco public schools, had a very traditional middle class upbringing. Parents were married almost 60 years until my dad passed away. And they brought me up in a Christian household, and went to school did my undergrad at Baylor. And
Baylor.
yeah, I got a degree in business management. I actually started out as pre-med,
Oh,
working in the emergency room, but got my degree in business management. And I worked in a family business for about 9 years before I went to the police department at, I think I was age 30 when I went to the police academy.
wow. Man, so you born and raised here in Waco, Texas. So you're a Waco native, man. That is pretty neat. And so growing up, do you remember any interactions with any of the police or what did you get inspired at a young age? When did that happen to?
I should have had interactions with the police beyond what we probably all experience, which would be traffic stops and
Oh,
maybe being the victim of a crime. But
oh, okay,
I did not really
okay,
until I was probably maybe in my early teens, and one of my neighbors was a Waco police sergeant.
oh, okay.
And we would play football together and just kind of hang out occasionally. And eventually, at some point, I did a ride along with him. And I think that's kind of when the light bulb first went off.
But how old were you when that happened?
I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
Were you in elementary, you think, or junior high, high school?
oh, no, probably 16 to 18.
Okay.
In that range.
All right. So
Yeah.
you were teen.
Yeah.
Man, so you went on a ride along. What was that experience like?
It was eye opening. I think it gave me a perspective that a lot of people don't see
Yeah.
about both the police and the community that they're normally not a part of. I mean, when you live in your own world, you tend to see things from that perspective. And I think it was the sixth grade was the first year of integration. And they took me from Mountain View Elementary School to J.H. Hines,
Okay.
where I was the minority. And so that was the first time I had a chance to kind of look at things from a different point of view.
Wow. And so, what were some of the things that you realized on the road in that vehicle, taking that police ride along?
Two things. One is this is my community. And I think I've always had a servant's heart, whether it was as, thinking I wanted to become a doctor, or when I was working in the family business, I was a volunteer fireman
Oh, okay.
and an unpaid officer for the city of Woodway. I just knew that I wanted to to serve my community, and it was something that really was interesting to me.
Wow. Wh- What were some of your early interactions like where you had to deal with people and the other career path or the other things you were doing? Like maybe in the workplace or when you were volunteering, like you know, because you come across as a person that not only come across, but I've seen it where you are a people person. As far as you can remember, where have some of those pivotal moments been that kind of affirmed who you are as a servant in the community?
Hmm. It's hard to reach back when you reach my age, but I think just overall, even working for my dad,
Mm,
um, he showed me that dealing with people who were having problems or unhappy was an opportunity.
mm,
Anybody could sell a box, but solving somebody's problem for them was an opportunity to build a relationship. And then I think I also saw in the way he treated the people that worked. He owned the company.
uh-huh.
Um, they all viewed him as a father figure, and I think he viewed us corporately as a family.
Mm,
And it really, just by watching him, showed me that caring about your people, the old saying about before people care what you know, they want to know that you care,
yeah.
and that they really felt valued, and that they would do anything for you as a supervisor if they knew where your heart was, particularly when you make a mistake or do something they don't agree with.
Right. Wow. Well, that speaks to the legacy, of your parents, modeling that. Um, how important has that been in your career path in policing? That model from the parents, the legacy that they have left.
Well, I think their legacy's been important in every aspect of my life, whether it's policing or my own family and how I raised my children. They kind of set the example, and fortunately, it was a good example.
Yeah,
We all make mistakes, and I'm sure they did too, but I don't remember those.
yeah,
But it has really guided me in interacting within in all of my jobs, but specifically the Waco Police Department. But in raising my kids and recognizing that you're always setting an example, a good one or a bad one,
yeah.
and then the people that I interact with in the public, I'm not on the street as much anymore, although I am probably more than I ought to be. Um, but just knowing that you care,
Yeah.
because sometimes when you see people, they're at their worst.
Mm,
They've either been victimized or they're going to jail. Neither one of those are pleasant experiences.
mm.
And I think when they know that you care about them and you're concerned about their welfare, that's really makes it a positive experience, and it also builds relationships that are valuable in us being able to do our job effectively.
Amen to that. Wow. You know, uh, that's really encouraging and important to highlight that truth and to the reality that you come up out of from having parents that have invested in you, that have displayed the best to their ability, God's grace, love, and mercy, and peace on not only in the family but on folks out there that are struggling and or whatever, right? Like that's to be able to hear about how that model of affirming the God-given dignity in people. Uh, wow, I mean that's huge, right? It's a big deal, especially when you make it in leadership in the community of any kind. Um, you said something that's a big deal too. Like when you have when you own a business, you're in leadership, right? And you have the opportunity to influence, to encourage, uplift while you're doing business, right? To deal with things, even deal with discipline issues in the workplace or whatever you have to do with policies and procedures and things like that. But you have an opportunity to do one or two things you could use that influence to discourage, to intimidate, to do all those things there. But that's not what I've been hearing from you. Is that your father, um, parents, have displayed from that level of leadership to include people even as a family. So that's a culture that it seems like had been curated, right? Where those folks felt like they were part of the family, felt like it's more than just a time clock where you punch in and punch out. That's a big deal. That doesn't always happen, but when it does, man, that's a big deal because then you apply that in any other context, and it works everywhere. Um, could you tell us about how in the world did you were saying you were like in your early 30s or in your 30s when you made a decision to get into the policing career path. Could you take us to how did that work for you? How did that happen?
Well, I thought I would be interested in it, and so I was already a volunteer fireman with the city of Woodway,
Mm,
and the police chief agreed to put me through the police academy to be a reserve or an unpaid officer.
mm,
And so I did that for about 2 years, and it just reaffirmed my original thoughts that this is really what I wanted to do. I think that it was difficult in the sense that I didn't want to disappoint my dad
mm.
and have that conversation uh, about not taking over the family business
Yeah,
and not knowing how he would react. But I felt like I needed to have a passion for what I wanted to do to be excellent. And
yeah.
so we had that conversation, and he surprised me a little bit by saying, if it's legal and moral, I'll support it. I didn't realize until later some of his friends told me that he was upset because he was worried about me. But,
Oh,
at the time, all he gave was his support. And so I applied to the Secret Service and the Waco Police Department. And I was in the process with the Secret Service when Waco gave me an offer, and I just decided um, I needed to take what was in hand versus turn that down and find out that the other one never materialized. And at the same time, my wife was working at Baylor, and I felt like if I joined the Secret Service, who knows where I would end up. So I
yeah.
took the Waco job, and I've been there ever since. It'll be 31 years in November.
31 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, what high school did you go to here in Waco?
Well, it's no longer there, but
Okay.
Richfield,
Richfield. Okay.
and it's now being rebuilt as the new Waco High.
Yeah.
It was a Richfield Ram, class of 1980.
There you go. Richfield Ram.
Yeah.
There's some folks out there that relate to that or heard stories from their parents, and
Yeah.
that's awesome. I've certainly have heard, obviously, of it, and so that's neat. So tell us about the process. You did the application, you got approved, so you started going into training. What happened with all that?
Yes, after I was hired,
Hmm.
I'd already been through the police academy, but
Okay.
but at that time, as with many mid-sized cities to larger cities,
Mm.
they required you to go through their academy.
Okay.
And so I went through the Waco Police Academy.
Okay.
And so I finished that. The only difference was I'd already taken the state licensing exam.
Mm.
So finished the academy, um, got out on the streets in the field training program where they teach you how to apply what you've learned in the academy. And I was released on my own and as a patrol officer in West Waco.
So you were what's the proper way to identify the young folks that are on patrol? Yeah.
The polite way would be rookies.
Okay.
We were called a lot of things. We probably still are.
Okay, so the rookies,
Or probationary officers. Yeah.
probationary officers.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a probationary officer, right? AKA a rookie. What was your first of all? What year was that here in Waco?
I believe I graduated from the academy. We started in November of '93, and I
Okay.
think we finished in April of '94.
Okay, So the time. What in your own words, what was the climate like working in the streets, being a young officer there, patrolling?
I mean, it was exciting.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a good way. I know my first year, I think we had 29 murders in Waco,
Mm,
which is probably, if not the highest,
yeah.
right up there, tied for the highest.
Yeah.
And so it was very violent. There was a lot of crack on the streets at the time, and
Mm,
some areas that were uh, dangerous to go into, parts of the city and apartment complexes that were dangerous to go into.
and at that time, there's a lot of folks that'll be listening to this that are intrigued because it's some history, right? At that time, though, uh, what area was like at that time like the hardest to be around to have to police?
I think it was probably in terms of violence, uh, more located around, instead of saying North Waco, for example, specific apartment complexes,
Yeah,
and
gotcha,
North and East Waco.
gotcha. Man, yeah, I remember those years. I was a youngin' out there being a knucklehead, and yeah, we were wild. Um, what are some encounters that you can remember that may have shaped kind of how you did policing during those years when you first started? Is there any particular things you can remember?
I think I always wanted to be a hard worker,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of what we do is guided by policies and law and case law. And so, but in terms of how we treat people, um, I think that was just guided by how I was raised and my beliefs of being kind and respectful
Yeah,
when you can be.
sure.
Um, and that paid off in the sense that early on I found that I enjoyed looking for fugitives.
Yeah,
For whatever reason, that really appealed to me. And when I wasn't on a call, I would oftentimes be trying to track somebody down.
yeah,
And a part of that was, you can do your research, and of course now we have all sorts of technological aids
yeah,
to find people, but in the end, there are certain times when you have to rely on relationships. And people would always ask me, why do people talk to you? Because it wasn't like a paid informant. And I look back and I think a lot of that was out of respect. They felt like I'd treated them fairly or solved a problem in their life. And they felt like I was trustworthy and wouldn't compromise their safety. And so eventually, I think that your reputation on the streets
yeah.
as being a good cop,
Mm,
it is out there and it's helpful.
mm. In your experience, now looking back at that, especially looking at your early years, would you say that you could see where you were a beacon uh, to other um, what did you what do you
Rookies?
yeah,
Yeah.
rookies, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at it now, could you see where that became a healthy model to your approach to policing because of how you were raised? Did you ever have any questioning, like, what are you doing, or that kind of deal early on?
Well, I had questions as to why I was serving warrants and not just answering calls. But
Yeah.
in terms of setting an example to rookies, I think it's one of the things looking back and even looking at where we are now, whether you realize it or not, you're always setting an example,
Mm,
a good one or a bad one. And I've had people tell me after the fact that they respected me or that they appreciated the way I handled something. And I'm not talking about just either citizens on a call or somebody I've arrested, but even some of the folks that I work with.
there you go.
And I think, again, for people that are in their darkest moment, and this is something that I've tried to tell some of the folks, is that when they're really in a dark place, even a a small match can be a light that means something, saying, I'll pray for you, or doing something that shows concern can be really impactful. And you don't realize you're making a difference all the time. And until later, people will tell you, I really appreciate what you did. And so, when I talk to some of the officers even today, and they feel like they don't have the words to say, or they don't know how people are going to receive what they say, is just say, if God put it on your heart, just do it. And that's kind of a challenge for me, to be honest with you, because I think one of the pivotal moments for me was my son and I went on a mission trip, I think when he was 16, to Louisiana, where they'd had floods. And it was with the Baylor softball team. And I was one of the team leaders. And after we would help somebody with their house, there was I believe, a young life leader in our group, and he'd say, "Do you want to pray for this family?" And I said, "Oh, you do it. You're the professional." Yeah. And then later in that day, the coach of the team told me that my son was on his team. He said he was just walking down the street, huddled up, praying with people. Yeah. At 16, and that really spoke to me about being bolder. In my testimony, and being willing to just share what's on my heart.
So, Chief Lanning, you talking about this particular subject here, you get emotional about this particular deal. Can I ask, why is that? Why does that get you emotional?
I don't know. Maybe it's, I felt like I should have set the example for my son instead of following the example. But, in the end, it was kind of a point where I realized that I'd always felt like that before that. Somebody needed to come to me and say, "Hey, I've seen something different about your life. Do you want to talk about it?"
Right.
But I didn't want to be basically interfering or giving unwanted knocking on somebody's door when they don't want to talk to me about it.
Sure.
But I feel like there are a lot of opportunities, whether somebody's in the back of my car, or somebody's just been victimized, or it's just somebody at work who's struggling with marital or financial issues.
Yeah.
You never know.
Right. You mentioned back in the days whenever it was new, where they were bringing everyone together. And so there you were, right, going and being able to see some different perspectives. What are some of the things, can you remember when you first started in the integration, and that shaped you to where you are now today, as far as your outlook on things?
Oh, I think that's been a journey ever since, and just recognizing that in the end we're all the same. Rich or poor, man or woman, black or white, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And just trying to see people as people.
Yeah.
And see them for their hearts.
Well, in policing, your job is to bring peace to the community, be your peace officers, and you have to arrest people, you have to show up on the scene. I mean, just depending on your function and where you're at with that. But you seem to, in my observation, just the short time I've been able to observe, but it's been a powerful one. You really do care about people. I mean, it's not just a job for you. It's very clear to me that it's not just a job for you. Can you speak more to that?
I think that's true. But I think you can care, and yet your actions can take a different course with that.
Yeah.
For example, I think when I first started, as I told you, I used to like to catch fugitives because I felt like that brought justice to the victims and it held people accountable.
Yeah.
And I did that because I cared.
Gotcha.
But the longer I've done it, I think I've come to the recognition that while there will always be a need for that,
Yeah.
because some people, we need to protect the community, they need to be held accountable. We can't arrest our way out of this problem. And knowing that we have one of the highest incarceration rates of any country in the world, and yet we still have problems, I thought there's got to be another component to this if you care about really solving the problem and protecting your community. And I think, as I talked about with my son and the mission trip, several years ago, I had a group, and I can't remember their name off the cuff, but they wanted to advocate for programs that would either keep kids from going into a life of crime, or if they made some bad decisions, that they would age out more quickly. And those were pre-K programs and parent training and after-school programs. And I did advocate for those, but it got me to thinking in a different way. And then my wife teaches public health, and one of the analogies they use is somebody hears a splash, and they're the hero, and they drag them out of the river, and they're tired, and then they hear another splash, and they drag somebody else out of the river. But then nobody ever fixes the railing on the bridge to keep people from going in. And it's so much more effective to do something on the front end. And so I think it's got to be a combination of those things. You can care, but you have to affect change, and then you have to support the people who have already made decisions, whether it's witnessing to them or some of the programs about drug treatment court and things to try to keep people on a positive trajectory.
Yeah, no, you got me thinking, because you're known to be a person in your leadership, your function, as also really good at catching people. So you have a good reputation that if someone is somewhere, you're a person who has a skill to find whoever it is that you're looking for. Is that right?
Yes.
Is there anything you can say to that? Just that known fact about you, that you just find people, if you need to catch them, you'll catch them.
Well, within reason.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are things where people flee the state or flee the country.
Right.
We have to involve the U.S. Marshals. But locally, again, I think I've been able to leverage my relationships with people and know if a certain person goes on the run, who to talk to maybe find out where they might be, and just digging in and doing the research and the follow-up and being able to find them. It's something I still enjoy, and it's obviously probably not part of my current job description, but I still do that a little bit. Did it yesterday.
Oh man. Okay. Well, the folks didn't know, if they see this, about Chief Lanning. Well, he'll show up and take care of business.
Well, it is, but I tend to focus now on not just felony warrants, but particularly violent felonies, or people that have multiple warrants. And I feel like if they're not locked up, it's going to impact the community significantly.
Yeah.
Because I don't have as much time, and you have to make the time you have count.
Sure. No, that's good. The point I was going to get at, which is why I wanted to talk about that, is that there's a lot of us that come from the other side, and obviously we've been arrested. There's those of us that've been to prison, that were wanted, and all that stuff. And for us, it was a part of the change that happened in our lives, right? There's a lot of us that have changed, and for us, part of our journey is, had we not gotten arrested, captured, and did some prison time to even think, we wouldn't be where we're at today. In fact, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I mean, I was ticked off as all get out, right? Because I wanted to keep doing the unhealthy stuff I was doing because of the mindset I was in at the time. But it was a sobering time for me that helped plant some seeds of hope in my mind and in my heart. Now, I didn't change automatically right then and there, and I still had ugly plans, and it had to be an intervention from God, me going to the local church. and God bringing change through those many touches. But part of that is that, being wanted by U.S. Marshals, ATF agents, and being on Waco's Most Wanted myself, and um, I mean, dealing with the McNamara's, at that time, and the brothers, and um, that is a part not only of my journey, but a lot of the guys that I know that did a lot of time, way longer than me. But we all sit and talking like that was a part. We wish it was different, that we didn't have to go through that, but we did, and it just so happens to be a part of our story. Um, so I say that to say that if if I'm gonna be hunted down because I'm doing things that are unhealthy, things that are not helping the community. Um, Man, I'd want to be hunted down by you. Someone that's gonna, you know, uh, treat me right, respect me. Do your job though. That don't mean you let me go or nothing. But when you do come and get me, that there's someone in that room that has a heart for people. Because I'll tell you, it makes a difference, right? When you have someone in leadership or someone in the room that really does care about people in general, right? Doesn't matter where you land at with that as a person, but you treat everyone the same in that sense, right? You still got to do your job now, but at the same time, I do appreciate that about you, and I've been able to witness it in action, right? How you really care about people. You still do your job, but I've seen on the other end where um, the people out here that are on this side have a respect for you, and that means a lot to me, right? Because we can sit here and talk all day, but if you're not impacting the people, like from where I come from, to me it's just like, that's cool because this side thinks you're okay. What does this side say? Because to me it's like, what do the people really say about you, right? Really is what matters. And I've heard it and seen it with my own eyes and my own ears, where there are folks that respect you to the utmost, and that says a lot, right? And I mean people that are on this side. And so I just want to say thank you for really being about it. Where I come from the streets, it's like jump off the porch. If you about what you say you're about, then be about it. Don't just talk about it. So it's not just something you say, right? It's something you do. You model it. And it's beautiful to hear the story how it was modeled by your parents. And that does make a difference. If you're out there and you're in position to be a parent, what a beautiful position to be in, you make a difference whether you realize it or not. How you live, how you think, how you talk. Uh, None of us are perfect, obviously, and we make mistakes. As Chief Lanning was saying about his parents, he acknowledges. I mean, they weren't perfect, but what he does remember is, oh my goodness, it impacted him, and not only has it impacted him, but it impacts the community he serves, and that's when you get into leadership. That means a lot to me, right? Being a leader in the city. It's like we got people in Waco, Texas, McLennan County, that are in leadership, and this is how they think, this is how they live, this is how they function. It makes a difference when it's your son, when it's your daughter, when it's your family member that has either been harmed or is harming. Either way, it makes no difference. People are people, but they are being treated, at least in his sphere of influence, uh, with dignity. So, man, we thank you for that.
Thank you.
So it's a blessing. It's such a need. And I'll say on our end, it's important for us to remember that too, that, I'm saying when people are doing their jobs, in this case, in policing, we it's if they're respecting us, we gotta respect them. I mean, I would just give you some advice. If somebody's not respecting you, you still respect them because you're gonna you're gonna lose on that end. But there are people there that can make a difference, and you can say something if somebody's not treating you right. As we had Chief Victorian here, and she was saying that if, under her watch, if you're being mistreated, like seriously being mistreated, and report that, and there's things they can do if your story unpacks in a way that's harmful and it's not helpful. We're not saying we're people that need to do their job aren't doing their job. But when they're doing that, if something's not right, then you can report that. So if you're out there, just know that we'll acknowledge everything. But the aim, you hear it from leadership, is to treat people with dignity. Dignity is value, self-worth of who you are. And you've heard Chief Lanning already say that, dealing with people that are at their lowest spot, I mean, that's an important perspective, right? Because I definitely was in my lowest spot when they were dealing with me. And I thank God that my story, it may not be everybody's story, but my story is uh, they never disrespected me in that sense altogether. So they did their job, and I'm glad they did because I wouldn't be here if y'all didn't do y'all's job here in Waco PD. so, so there you go. Uh, you know, Chief, we have this amazing opportunity. I feel that God has given us. We are here today. We have several different professionals and folks from the city, from the community that chime in. People that just got out of prison. People that are in. I mean, we got all kinds of different people to watch this. With this opportunity, what would you? Is there anything in your heart that you would like to just tell the people that are watching from all angles, the folks from the community?
About police work?
Yeah, whatever is on your heart that you'd like to just say to the folks out there watching, whether they're in policing and law enforcement or in the community.
Well, specifically about policing, I think, it's really important for us to show the heart behind the badge. It's kind of the saying that has been popular recently because a lot of people think we're robots and, we're held to a very high standard as we should be, but we're going to make mistakes. But I really am, in 31 years of doing this, and I can't speak to every city in Texas or United States, but we have an accredited professional police force, and the people I work with every day try their best to do a hard job the right way. And so just to keep that in mind, I think the media will be quick to play stories of when they make mistakes, either intentional or otherwise.
Right.
But what's not as well known that I know are the officers that pay electric bills for people that can't afford it and just quietly and humbly do their job the best they can. And so just a little grace, I think.
That's good.
And, I encourage people. I take some of the community leaders periodically when I have time to do ride-alongs because I think it's important that they understand their community better and they understand the police force better.
Yeah.
And I do a class at Baylor each semester, and I make the students do ride-along. And some of them resisted initially.
Yeah.
But I've yet, when they write a reflection paper at the end of the semester, to find someone who didn't find that experience impactful. And, some of them have had experience with the police before, and it wasn't really that eye-opening for them, maybe.
Yeah.
But for the majority of them, it's really made a difference in how they view the city they live in and the police force. And so I think it's again, it's about relationships. It's about communications. It's about caring. And so I think that would be, I'm kind of rambling, but that would be my message. Yeah.
No, that's good. And I appreciate you for saying that. We're bridge builders. It's so important. You were talking about grace. I'll tell you from the community's perspective, even though I'm a local pastor, I've been that since, for years, for over 20 years, been in ministry. But, coming from the streets and all that, we want you guys to have grace, right? Like we'll say it all the time. That's my son, that's my daughter, that's my daddy, that's my mom, whatever the case may be. And we campaign for grace, man, give them another chance, or man, you got discretion. In your discretion, can you, just let me go, and those kind of things, right? Like we get it from the community, we get it. So I'm speaking from this side. What I want, the people, those of us, I'm gonna keep it 1,000 wow. Listen, we have to, what Chief Lanning is saying, we have to show grace. You want grace for your mama when she's getting arrested, for your daddy, for your whatever, all that. Be the change you want to see. You may have had a bad experience. It happens, right? But what I'm saying is Man, show grace. You got to give them a pass if you want to pass. And we're not talking about something illegal as far as passes. I'm saying that if you're advocating for someone to treat your son or your daughter or your mom or whatever right, even when they come and do their job, then you treat people right too. You treat those that are in policing, you treat them right. Or you can have a perspective that's unhealthy, really, because how do you want people to respect you and treat your son, your daughter, your mom, you a certain way, but you ain't going to treat people that same way that you're expecting to be treated? And we're human, so you're going to mess up. See, this very fact is that when you mess up, that you want grace from this side. Well, when they mess up, we got to give them grace too. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that's where we're at in a society, that if we don't come together and, be bridge builders and not point and kick people while they're down, that we're able to inspire and encourage and hold people accountable. Absolutely. We're not saying don't do that, because we're going to be held accountable too, though, right? Hold people accountable. You're going to be held accountable. It works all the way around for this to work, right? You can't just expect for everybody to turn the other, I mean, not turn the other cheek, but turn the blind eye away. We're not talking about that. We're saying where we deal with situations, but we treat each other with dignity and respect. Is a word Chief Lanning has been saying, and that is with respect. Where we come from the streets, to be disrespected is we take penitentiary chances when we feel disrespected, when you disrespect us, or when we So don't be disrespectful. That doesn't help anybody, because it doesn't help in the streets. That'll get you killed, actually. Disrespect, be like blatantly disrespect somebody. So it's not going to get you in a good place when you disrespect the police, because they're human. Is what you got to understand. I'll say this, that man, I'm sure all of y'all can. There's a lot of y'all that can agree that, man, you're a knucklehead, and in the workplace you're a knucklehead, and these guys are human, and so some of them may be knuckleheads, but we got people to help with the knuckleheadness, right? That can model and teach and say, hey, here's how you handle this when you have a badge and that kind of stuff. So let's in the comments, if you would, let's encourage Chief Lanning, man, for modeling that and being an encouragement, because we want to what's celebrated is repeated, right? And so we got to be able to talk about these things in a healthy way, and thank God for our community here at Waco, Texas, for our agency, our police department, for the folks that are in leadership that have this outlook on life and policing. So, Chief Land, did you have some things that you want before we leave to say?
No, I mean, I echo what you've already said,
Mm.
is that, we try to attract and hire and retain the best people and train them well.
Yeah.
And, ultimately, if we make mistakes, we'll be accountable and transparent.
Mm.
But I think we have a department to be very proud of.
Mm.
And I've been very privileged to work with these men and women for a number of years, and have seen what they do and the commitments and sacrifices they make. Not only the danger, but missing a lot of family activities and things a lot of us take for granted with the schedules and shift, and making difficult decisions, oftentimes in imprecise circumstances, and doing it well most of the time. So proud to be in Waco and proud to serve Waco.
Man, it's a blessing to be with a fellow Waconian, and who grew up differently, but in the same city, who, but where we can be here together. You know, Next time you think about Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you're getting with your family, and somebody, has too much of something, and they're thrown off, and the police have to be called, and they show up. The Bible says, "And all you get, and get you some understanding." Man, try to remember that these guys, what he just said, they're making sacrifices. They're having to work when you're celebrating with your family, the quinceañera, the birthday, the holidays. They're still out there. They don't, somebody got to be out there, right? And so they're out there not with their families, and they show up feeling some type of way. You would feel some type of way. You do, because you be working at wherever you work at, and you be all upset on Facebook, talking bad that you have to work on Christmas or whatever it is. Well, here they are. They feeling some type of way, and then you're going to sit there and disrespect them. Man, I couldn't be. Yeah, I'd act a fool with y'all. But point is we got to humanize each other. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You want them to put themselves in your shoes, but you got to do the same thing. Let's just treat each other that way. Just look at it that way. Man, the next time you see someone in the policing uh, uh, career path there, and from the tower here in Waco, man, go shake their hand, man. Tell them thank you for what you do, especially if it's a holiday. Man, think about them. Bless their game one time, however you can do that. It can be as simple as just saying thank you for what you do. Thank you for so Chief Lanning, thank you for protecting and leading our community, especially in times where you've had to be around away from your family while we were with our family to protect us. We appreciate you, what you've done all these years and are doing, and the legacy that you have left and are leaving. We appreciate that. I thank God for your parents who have raised you and done right. Man, if you're a parent, do the same, man. We make an impact on our kids, whether you like that or not, or realize it or not. Doing the right thing matters. And look, our kids can be having these type of stories saying that their parents raised them a certain way. So let's aim for that. Let's do that. So with that, uh, God bless you. Thank y'all for tuning in, and don't forget to thank uh, one of our folks out there behind the badge for what they do.